I was estranged from my family because my brother was the golden child. When I moved out and bought myself a house, they demanded through the court to give it to my brother. They lost the case and owed me $100,000. I, 28F, never thought I'd be sharing this story, but after the dust has finally settled and the court proceedings are over, I feel like I need to get this off my chest. I was my parents' first child, and for 3 years, I was the center of their world. Or so I'm told by my grandmother, the only family member I still talk to. Everything changed when Kevin, 26M, was born. It wasn't a gradual shift, it was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, I went from being their precious daughter to essentially becoming Kevin's third parent. For context, I grew up in what looked like a typical middle-class family in suburban Connecticut. Dad was an accountant, Mom taught elementary school, and from the outside, we were the picture-perfect American family. We even had the white picket fence and golden retriever to complete the Norman Rockwell painting. But behind closed doors, it was a different story entirely. The first memory I have of realizing something was wrong was my 6th birthday. Mom and Dad had promised me a big party with all my friends from kindergarten. I'd been talking about it for months, had my heart set on a butterfly theme, and had even helped Mom make decorations. The day before my party, Kevin, then 3, got a slight fever. Nothing serious, the pediatrician said it was just a cold. But my parents canceled my party because Kevin wasn't feeling well and it wouldn't be fair to him to have to watch everyone else have fun. Instead of a party, I spent my 6th birthday entertaining Kevin with puppet shows to make him feel better. No cake, no friends, no presents, they were saved for when we reschedule, which never happened. But 2 weeks later, when Kevin's fever was long gone, my parents threw him an elaborate get-well party that was bigger than any birthday party I'd ever had. This set the tone for the next 2 decades of my life. When I was 8, I won first place in the school science fair with a project about butterfly metamorphosis. I never got over my butterfly phase. My parents didn't come to the ceremony because Kevin had a t-ball game. He didn't even like t-ball, he spent most of the game picking dandelions in the outfield. But Mom took hundreds of pictures and Dad cheered like his son was playing in the World Series. By age 12, I had learned to be self-sufficient. I packed my own lunches, did my own laundry, and helped with dinner prep. Meanwhile, Kevin, at 9, was still having Mom cut his sandwiches into dinosaur shapes and throwing tantrums if his socks had annoying seams. This wasn't because he had any developmental issues. The school actually wanted to put him in the gifted program, but he refused to do the entrance tests, and our parents said they didn't want to pressure him. High school was when the financial disparity became glaringly obvious. I needed new glasses. I had to babysit and mow lawns to save up for them. Kevin wanted the latest gaming console. Mom and Dad would buy it immediately, often with the money I'd heard them say was tight just days before. I started working at 16, first at the local library, then at a coffee shop, and finally adding weekend shifts at a tutoring center. My parents didn't object to my jobs because it meant I could drive Kevin to his activities. Yes, I had to buy my own car, a 1995 Honda Civic that had seen better days, but I was expected to be Kevin's personal chauffeur. The deal was that I could keep my job money if I drove him anywhere he needed to go. Looking back, I realized this was when I started my meticulous documentation habit. I kept every paycheck stub, logged every mile I drove for Kevin, and maintained detailed records of every penny I spent and saved. It wasn't a conscious decision to prepare for future legal battles, it was just my way of proving to myself that I could make it on my own. College was another watershed moment. I had worked my tail off and gotten a full scholarship to MIT for computer science. When I announced it at dinner, Dad glanced up from his phone and said, "That's nice, honey." "Oh, Kevin, tell your sister about your new YouTube channel idea." The channel, by the way, got exactly 3 videos, all filmed on equipment our parents bought him, before he got bored and moved on to his next passion project. During college, I had minimal contact with my family. I stayed at school during breaks, taking extra classes or working internships. This was when I really started to thrive. Without the constant comparison to Kevin, without having to shrink myself to avoid overshadowing him, I discovered who I really was. I graduated summa cum laude, landed a job at a major tech company, and continued living like I was broke. My starting salary was $95,000, but I rented a tiny studio apartment, drove my same old Civic, and put away almost 70% of my income. My coworkers thought I was crazy, passing up happy hours and living like a hermit. But I had a plan. Meanwhile, Kevin's life was a series of expensive false starts. There was the food truck venture, failed after 3 months because he didn't want to work weekends. Then came the cryptocurrency trading scheme, lost $30,000 of our parents' money. The luxury dog accessories business lasted 2 weeks before he decided dogs were too much responsibility. Each failure was met with, "It's okay, sweetie, you're just finding yourself. Everyone's path is different." The real estate market in our area was booming, but I had been watching it for years. I knew exactly which neighborhoods were undervalued, which school districts were improving, and where the next development projects were planned. When a 3-bedroom craftsman-style house came on the market in an up-and-coming neighborhood, I pounced. The house needed work, the kitchen was straight out of 1975, and the bathrooms had seen better days. But the bones were good, and more importantly, I could afford it. I closed on the house for $425,000, putting down 25% that I had saved up. I spent another $50,000 on renovations, doing much of the cosmetic work myself. I didn't tell my family about the purchase until after the renovations were complete. In fact, I hadn't spoken to them in months at that point. Kevin had been going through his spiritual awakening phase, which mostly involved asking our parents for money to go to meditation retreats in Bali, and I was busy with work in the house. The day I finally posted pictures of my new home on Instagram, my first post in months, all hell broke loose. First came the text messages. "Mom, how could you afford a house? Did you inherit money from someone? Dad, call us immediately. We need to discuss this house situation. Kevin, wow, didn't know you were so materialistic now. Guess money changed you." Then the phone calls started. I let them all go to voicemail, but the messages they left were increasingly unhinged. "Mom, your brother has been devastated since seeing your post. He's been crying all day about how unfair life is. How could you be so thoughtless? Dad, this is unacceptable behavior, young lady. We raised you better than to be this selfish. Kevin has been working so hard to get his life together, and you're just showing off to hurt him. Kevin, hey sis, so I was thinking since you have 3 bedrooms and you're just one person, maybe I could move in? My spiritual guide says I need a stable base for my next venture." When I didn't respond, they escalated to showing up at my workplace. My brother actually tried to get past security, claiming he needed to rescue his sister from her materialistic prison. I had to explain to my boss why my family was acting like I joined a cult instead of just buying a house. The lawsuit they filed was a masterpiece of delusion. Their lawyer, a friend of my dad's from his bowling league, actually argued that since I had lived at home during high school and part of college breaks, any money I earned during that time was family income and should have been contributed to the household. They tried to claim that my parents had an oral contract with me that any major assets I acquired would be shared with my brother. Their evidence? A Christmas card from when I was 7 where I wrote "I'll share everything with my baby brother forever and ever." My lawyer, a referral from a colleague who had gone through a similar family lawsuit, actually had to step out of the room to laugh when she saw their filing. Then she got serious and helped me prepare a countersuit that would make them regret every decision that led to this moment. During discovery, we uncovered some interesting facts. My parents had taken out 3 mortgages on their house to fund Kevin's various ventures. They had been paying his credit card bills, all 5 of them, for years. They had even tried to list him as a dependent on their taxes despite him being 26 and technically running his own businesses. The judge's face during the hearing was a study in barely contained disbelief. When my parents' lawyer tried to argue that my success was only possible because of their investment in my future, the future they consistently ignored in favor of Kevin's, the judge actually took off his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. The case was dismissed with prejudice, but our countersuit for harassment, legal fees, and emotional distress was successful. The final judgment was $100,000-$40,000 for legal fees, $35,000 for emotional distress, and $25,000 in punitive damages. The aftermath has been both satisfying and sad. My parents are selling their house to pay the judgment. Kevin moved in with our aunt but was asked to leave after 2 weeks because he kept rearranging her furniture to improve the feng shui. He's now couch surfing between his equally directionless friends, still insisting that his next big break is just around the corner. The most recent development? Kevin has started a GoFundMe to rescue his elderly parents from financial ruin caused by toxic capitalism and sister privilege. It has raised $37, mostly from his meditation group. My house has become my sanctuary. I've renovated it exactly how I want it. The kitchen now has the blue cabinets I was never allowed to have growing up. Mom always said blue was too bold for a kitchen. The library has floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a reading nook with the butterfly wallpaper I loved as a kid. The garden is full of native plants that attract actual butterflies. My home office has the best views of the sunset. I've made friends with my neighbors, joined a local book club, and started volunteering at an animal shelter. My life is peaceful, orderly, and completely my own. Some people might think I'm cruel for taking my family to court, for not sharing my success with my brother, for going no contact with the people who raised me. But after years of being treated like an ATM with legs, expected to give and give while Kevin took and took, I'm finally putting myself first. Edit 1. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the supportive comments and awards. RIP my inbox. To address some common questions. 1. Yes, I have a restraining order against all of them now. 2. The judgment included a provision that they can't come within 500 feet of my property. 3. For those asking about my lawyer's info, sorry, I want to maintain my privacy, but I definitely recommend finding someone who specializes in family law and property disputes. 4. Several people have asked about Kevin's GoFundMe, please don't try to find it. I don't want this story to lead to any harassment, even though he probably deserves it. Edit 2. Some people are asking if I feel guilty about potentially making my parents sell their house. The answer is no. They made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences. They spent years prioritizing one child while expecting the other to be completely self-sufficient. Well, they got what they wanted, I'm self-sufficient, and now they can focus all their resources on their golden child. Edit 3. Thank you for all the DMs sharing similar stories. It's heartbreaking how common this dynamic is, but it's also inspiring to see how many people have broken free and built beautiful lives for themselves. You all are amazing. Edit 4. Since many are asking, yes, I did name my new cat Justice. She's a black cat with golden eyes who showed up in my garden the day after the court case ended. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. Final update, my aunt, dad's sister, just reached out to tell me that Kevin is now demanding that my parents give him their house instead of selling it to pay the judgment. Apparently, he feels entitled to it because it's not fair that he has to suffer because of their mistake. He's also started telling people that he's writing a book about surviving narcissistic sister abuse. The irony is just chef's kiss. You really can't make this stuff up. Final update, 3 months. Buckle up, everyone, because the aftermath of this situation has evolved into something I couldn't have made up if I tried. My aunt, dad's sister, has been keeping me updated despite my no contact policy, and honestly, I'm both amused and horrified by what's happening. First, let's talk about Kevin's latest entrepreneurial venture. After his TikTok healing journey failed to gain traction, turns out people weren't interested in watching a 26-year-old man complain about his sister's negative energy while lounging in other people's homes. He's pivoted to what he calls family trauma life coaching. Yes, you read that right. My brother, who has never held a job for longer than 3 months and still can't do his own laundry, is now charging people $200 per session to help them overcome toxic family success syndrome. He's created a whole theory about how successful siblings are actually energy vampires who steal opportunities from their more spiritually aligned brothers and sisters. I wish I was joking. The kicker? He's using my house as his primary example in his coaching materials. He's actually drawn a diagram showing how the 3 bedrooms in my house represent the 3 chambers of family betrayal or some nonsense. My aunt sent me screenshots, and I had to send them to my lawyer because I'm pretty sure using photos of my house without permission is illegal. Meanwhile, my parents' situation has gotten even more bizarre. Instead of simply selling their house to pay the judgment, they've turned this into a full-blown family crisis that's splitting our extended family into factions. Here's what's happened. 1. Kevin demanded they give him the house instead of selling it, claiming he deserves it because it's not fair that he has to suffer because of their mistake. His plan was to turn it into a healing center for victims of successful sibling abuse. When they initially refused, he started a hunger strike that lasted approximately 6 hours, until someone ordered pizza. 2. My parents then tried to compromise by suggesting they sell the house and buy Kevin a condo with any money left over after paying the judgment. This led to Kevin having what my aunt described as a spiritual meltdown in the middle of Whole Foods, where he lay down in the organic produce section and refused to move until the universe sent him a sign. The sign apparently came in the form of a store manager threatening to call the police. 3. Dad then tried to reach out to his old college friends for loans to save the family home. This backfired spectacularly when one friend, who happens to follow me on LinkedIn, recognized the situation and shared my side of the story. Now half of Dad's golf club is giving him the cold shoulder. 4. Mom has started a blog called When Children Turn, A Mother's Journey Through Family Court Betrayal. It has exactly 12 followers, 11 of which are her book club members, and one which I suspect is Kevin using a fake account to leave supportive comments. She's already announcing a book deal, despite not having written more than 3 posts, all of which are basically long rants about how children today don't understand family values. 5. Kevin's latest scheme? He's trying to pitch their story to reality TV producers as House Wars, Golden Child Edition. He's convinced that once people see their side of the story, they'll realize I'm the villain and start a GoFundMe to save the family legacy. So far, he's been left on red by every producer he's contacted. The house situation has reached new levels of absurdity. They finally listed it for sale, but Kevin keeps sabotaging showings by either meditation chanting in the backyard or leaving his manifestation vision boards all over the house. The real estate agent has threatened to quit twice. But here's the real cherry on top. Remember that Christmas card they tried to use in court? The one where 7-year-old me promised to share everything with my baby brother? Kevin has had it professionally framed and carries it to his coaching sessions as a proof of contractual betrayal. He's even had t-shirts made with the text printed on them. They're being sold on his new website for $45.99, plus shipping, as healing wear for the spiritually abandoned. My aunt says he's sold exactly 2 shirts, one to our mom, and one to himself. He wears it to family functions and takes dramatic selfies while pointing at it with tearful captions about the price of sisterly success. In a twist that I find particularly hilarious, Kevin has started claiming that he's actually glad I won the lawsuit because it revealed the true spiritual bankruptcy of materialism. He's now presenting himself as some sort of minimalist guru, despite actively trying to get his hands on both my house and our parents' house simultaneously. The most recent development? He started a podcast called The Golden Truth, Surviving Sibling Success, where he interviews other victims of successful siblings. Most episodes are just him monologuing about how my butterfly garden is a symbol of metamorphic betrayal, while his guest hosts awkwardly try to relate it to their own mild family disagreements about inheritance or holiday plans. My parents are now living in my aunt's basement while they figure out the house situation, and according to her, Kevin keeps showing up unannounced for family healing sessions that mainly consist of him burning sage and demanding everyone acknowledge their role in enabling my negative success energy. As for me, I've turned off all social media notifications, added another security camera, just in case, and adopted a second cat. This one's a butterfly patterned tabby I've named Karma. She and Justice have become best friends, and they love sitting in my library window, watching the actual butterflies in my garden. The restraining order is still firmly in place, my house is still mine, and my life is peaceful. Sometimes I feel a twinge of sadness for the family I wish I had, but then I remember that I've built something better, a life where I don't have to shrink myself to make anyone else feel bigger. For those wondering about the legal side, yes, my lawyer is documenting all of Kevin's business ventures that use my story or property. No, I'm not planning to sue him again, he has no money anyway. Yes, the judgment is still being paid through the sale of my parents' house, regardless of Kevin's protests. To end on a positive note, I've started mentoring young girls in STEM through a local community program. We meet in my library, surrounded by books and butterflies, and I teach them about coding, confidence, and the importance of documenting everything. One of them asked me why I have so many filing cabinets in my home office, and I told her, because sometimes the best stories are hidden in the paper trail. Life has a funny way of working out. 5 years ago, I was the family disappointment who worked too much and didn't understand family values. Now I'm the villain in my brother's spiritual awakening story, the antagonist in my mother's blog, and the cautionary tale in my father's golf club. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. My garden is blooming, my cats are purring, my career is thriving, and my home is exactly what I made it, a butterfly sanctuary for a soul that finally learned to fly.